So, if you think about the rainfall that we get, that does also impact the type of grass that we raise, which then potentially impacts the way that the beef tastes, right? And that's another reason we feed corn.
Yeah, when we look across the entire United States, if we were harvesting cattle right off of grass, so in a grass finishing system, depending on what type of grass they're eating, that can potentially impact the flavor profile of that meat. And so that's another benefit of the feedlot industry is consumers, when they go to the grocery store, if they have a really good steak today, they want to go back a week later and buy product that tastes just like that one they had. Whereas when we're finishing on grass, we see a whole lot more variation. So that's why when we look at that cow-calf on grass, that stocker operation on grass, but then we can take and put them in the feedlot and feed them that corn-based diet, we end up with one very consistent flavor profile across the industry. So that helps us provide a more uniform product for those consumers out there.
You look at where we are here, it's really lush and green pasture. And I know even within Texas, as you go from where we are today, as we go west 800 miles all the way to El Paso, the precipitation changes dramatically. I know that happens across the U.S. How does the amount of rainfall that we get impact where cattle are raised and how cattle are raised?
Okay, obviously we're going to raise more cattle in those areas where we get higher rainfall. Just because the more rain we get, the more forage production we're going to produce versus a lower rainfall area. So when we look at Texas, just to kind of give you some rough examples, we'll range from about 60 to 65 inches on the far east or southeast side of Texas. Where we're getting out west, we may be less than 10 inches a year, in some cases maybe less than 5 inches a year. So that's greatly going to change what we would call our stocking rates. And so when we talk about stocking rates for a cow-calf operation, that's how many acres of forage do we need to support one cow and her calf for the year. And so we look in the eastern half of Texas, if we're managing those forages, we could potentially run a cow-calf pair to 2 or 3 acres. When we get out in West Texas or even the Panhandle, we would talk about running cows per section. So a section is 640 acres, that's 1 square mile, so a mile this way by a mile that way. And in some of those instances, we may be talking about running 2 to 3 cows per section. So we're talking about needing over 100 acres per cow-calf pair. And some people may say, well, that doesn't sound very efficient. Well, yeah, it takes a little more acreage out there, but that's land that we wouldn't be able to use for anything else. So we're able to take that ruminant animal and utilize that resource to actually get some production out of it. And then when we look across the U.S., we see the same thing. As we move from the East Coast west, we're going to see less precipitation, and we'll see some of those same ranges in stocking rates. Texas is pretty unique in that we see the great range within Texas that we would see that same range within the entire United States.